guests, ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding to receive the Worshipful Mayor of Bournemouth.
Members, please be seated. Good morning, everybody. Item number 1 on the agenda this morning is apologies. Honorary Clerk, do we have apologies, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, we have apologies from Councillors Mark Anderson, Councillor Sarah Anderson, Councillor Marcus Andrews, Councillor John Beasley, Councillor Simon Bull, Councillor Lawrence Fear, Councillor Mike Green, Councillor Nicola Green, Councillor May Haynes, Councillor Mohan Iyengar, Councillor Andy Jones, Councillor Drew Mellor and Councillor Lisa Northover.
Thank you, Honorary Clerk. Councillor Dunlop. Thank you, Councillor Dunlop. Distinguished guests, Charter Trustees, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome everybody to this annual general meeting and hope that you enjoy the occasion. I'd like to advise you that this meeting is being live streamed and welcome those viewing the meeting online. Item 2 on the agenda, declarations of interest. Do any members have declarations of interest, please? There are none indicated. Item 3 on the agenda. We will now take item 3 on the agenda, the election of Mayor. I now invite Councillor Malcolm Davies to propose Councillor Robert Lawton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, Freeman of the Borough, Honorary Alderman, past Mayors, Member of Parliament, distinguished guests, Chartered Trustees, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure to propose Councillor Robert Lawton to become the next Mayor of Bournemouth. Bob and I have been friends for many, many years, and we've worked together very closely on a political, as the Chair and Vice Chair of Bournemouth East Conservatives, and also outside of it, our love of sport, cricket and football in particular. I believe that Bob will make an absolutely fantastic Mayor. Because he's actually, I would almost say that he is Mr. Perfect. but I do have to say one thing. No one is perfect, and as you know, we all have a flaw. And I've just heard Councillor Lawton say there's a sting coming. I think a little bit of his judgment, because as you know, some of the councillors are well aware that he does support a football team, which is the wrong side of Stanley Park. But he does have an excuse, and it's a good excuse that this has happened, because perhaps a lot of you aren't aware that Bob really isn't a Liverpudlian. He's bred and born in Wales. So he's now got an excuse, and I'm going to now give you a summary of his life, and you'll see the reason why he came to be born in Wales. Bob and his brother were born in South Wales after their father, a highly skilled engineer, was drafted there during the Second World War. After the war finished, the family then returned to Liverpool. Bob left school a few months before his 16th birthday and joined the Merchant Navy, sailing to New Zealand, where he and the crew spent 3 months touring the North and South Islands. Coming back to England, Bob experienced a hurricane, which, as a young boy, as he said, was an exciting experience. And I can imagine it very exciting when he told me that the ship only weighed 11,500 tonnes. I'll just add a little side to this. I think Bob, there's something with Bob, with ships, because we actually were sailing out of New York and we hit a hurricane. But the only difference was the ship we were in was 170,000 tonnes and his was 11,500. After leaving the Merchant Navy, Bob became an apprentice with a local bakery and was sent to college, where he subsequently obtained a diploma in management studies. He then probably took the best decision of his life, because he then left that company to join a mill, and it's here where he met his lovely wife, June. Bob worked in the laboratories there and again was sent on to college, where he completed his Iron National Certificate in chemistry. Bob then moved to a major PLC company as a technical assistant and later joined another PLC company as a development technician, during which time he was promoted from industrial engineer to production manager, responsible for 600 personnel. He later became the factory manager after building up a company in Manchester to eventually employ 1,500 people and with a turnover in excess of £25 million per annum. He was then headhunted and joined this original PLC, where he became the group technical manager and also operating division employing over 3,000 personnel. But after 10 years, that company, he took early retirement. After such a busy life, and knowing Bob so well as I do, he's a restless person, he can't sit still for a minute. He then decided that he was bored and that he would join the Royal Mail delivering post at Christmas. But that then developed into a 4-minute stint, sorry. So he worked for the Royal Mail for four years. He then decided that it was time for him to then enter local politics. And of course, he was elected, as we all know, as the member for West Southbourne, an area which he now still represents today. So, Mr. Mayor, it gives me great pleasure to propose Councillor Lorden as Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Davies. I now invite Councillor Anne Filer to second the proposal.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, Freedom of the Borough, Honorary Aldermen, past mayors, Member of Parliament, distinguished guests, Charter Trustees, ladies and gentlemen. I'm delighted to second this proposal, and in doing so, I'd like to talk about Bob's amazing wife, June, who will become the Mayoress of Bournemouth. June is an outwardly unassuming lady, but that seemingly reserved exterior hides a core of steel. Unlike her Welsh-born husband, whoever imagined that? We thought he was Liverpool-born, but unlike her Welsh-born husband, June was born and grew up in Bootle in Liverpool, and she was the eldest of 5 siblings, unfortunately not all of them here anymore. She's a talented seamstress, she tells me, but she actually works as one of the telephonists with in the old days when you had to put things, it was really a complicated job, and she did that for many, many years. And that was, she enjoyed that. She tells me she absolutely enjoyed that. I asked June whether she was part of the music scene in Liverpool in the days when some of us were growing up. Not everybody here. But she tells me that although it was an exciting time to be in Liverpool, she was actually more entranced by some music she heard in Crane's music store, not the Liverpool sound, but surprisingly the wedding march from the Peer Gynt suite. And she and Bob had that music playing at their wedding, which is really lovely, and she still loves it now. And once she met the handsome, dashing Bob, they moved around a great deal as he progressed in his career. You will have heard from Malcolm that Bob was a scientist, and I didn't know that, and I'm sure for many of us that's a surprise, but he actually is a scientist by inclination. Their son Chris was born in 1972 and Heather in 1976, and both those children have done exceptionally well in their chosen careers, despite having their schooling disrupted as they moved around the country. June and Bob are extremely proud of their children, but they couldn't have progressed as they did without the loyal support of June. June has dedicated her recent years to her grandchildren, committing herself to looking after them as their parents work complicated shifts. She goes round to their house early, supervises breakfast, gets them off to school, and despite the fact that occasionally she suffers from rheumatic aches and pains, she's there for them when they come home and is a constant and supportive presence in their lives. To my mind, that's the most wonderful career of all, ensuring that the next generation are loved and nurtured. They're lucky children. You're all lucky children to have such a dedicated grandma. Over the years, June has involved herself in a lot of hands-on charitable enterprises. She ran an air training corps. She was working as a volunteer at a youth club for young people with Down syndrome and other disabilities in Liverpool, and she found that particularly rewarding. More recently, she's volunteered for the police, working for the Victims Bureau and manning the Bobby van, advising members of the public about security and other matters. As Mayoress of Bournemouth, June will bring warmth and dignity to the role. She's a great communicator, very much a people person, and she'll be a perfect foil for Bob with her humanity and her sense of humour. So it is with the greatest pleasure that I second the move that Councillor Robert Lawton be appointed Mayor of Bournemouth for 2022-23, and in doing so I wish them both an exciting and fulfilling year ahead for themselves and for Bournemouth.
Thank you, Councillor Filer. I put the motion that Councillor Robert Lawson be elected Mayor of the Charter Trustees for Bournemouth for the ensuing municipal year. Those in favour, please show. Those against, don't you dare. That motion is carried, and I would like to congratulate you, Robert, on becoming the next Mayor of Bournemouth. I declare the election of Councillor Robert Lawton as Mayor of the Charter Trustees for Bournemouth for the ensuing municipal year. The Civic Party will now depart for a few minutes to allow the new Mayor to robe correctly. Thank you.
Please be upstanding to receive the Worshipful Mayor of Bournemouth, Councillor Robert Lawton.
I will now read and sign the Declaration of Acceptance of Office. Thank you. Can I keep this pen? No. Right. I, having been elected to the office of Mayor of Bournemouth, Charter Trustees, declare that I take that office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and ability, dated this day, the 27th of May, 2022. You can take a guy out of Liverpool. But I, Robert Lawton, having been duly elected to the office of Mayor of the Charter Trustees of Bournemouth, declare that I take that office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and ability. I now appoint my wife, June Lawton, as the Mayoress for the ensuing municipal year. Is Jeff doing that again? My Mayoress will now be invested with her chains. Now, I am aware that it's customary at this stage that the councillors have a sweepstake on how long my speech will last. Well, I've entered the sweepstake and I've got 46 minutes and 6 seconds. Has anybody got close to that? Freeman of the Borough, Honorary Alderman, past mayors, Member of Parliament, distinguished guests, Charter Trustees, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great honour to be chosen as first citizen of our beautiful town, and I accept the privilege bestowed upon me today with sincere dignity. I would first like to thank my proposer, Councillor Malcolm Davis, and seconder, Councillor Anne Filer, for their kind words and support. Can I also thank the Myrtle team and Democratic Services who have shown dedication in preparing and arranging the office of the Mayor for today's meeting, and they are wonderful. It is an honour and a privilege and pleasure to be Mayor and to follow in the footsteps of previous Mayors of Bournemouth, who have served our wonderful town so well, from the first Mayor, Thomas James Hankinson, to David Kelsey. To hold the office of Mayor in the Platinum Jubilee year of Her Majesty, the Queen, is an even greater honour. Her Majesty has served our country with dignity and devotion to duty, which is an inspiration to us all. Therefore, I will be writing to Buckingham Palace to request permission to dedicate our Summer Air Festival, which is a world-class event, in the Queen's honour to celebrate 70 wonderful years. And the Platinum Jubilee Air Festival has a nice ring about it, I feel. The event will take place on the 1st and 4th, between the 1st and 4th of September. The festival is the UK's largest, which attracts many visitors and is enjoyed by the residents of Bournemouth and boosts our local economy. On the 2nd of June, as part of the National Jubilee celebrations, I shall be lighting a beacon at 9:45 by the John Egan Memorial, and afterwards there will be a firework display at Bournemouth Pier at 10 p.m. I would like to dedicate my year in office to the health and well-being of the residents of Bournemouth by working with Professor Tom Wainwright and Professor Rob Middleton, who are part of the Orthopaedic Research Institute of Bournemouth University, which is an education and research charity that aims to have a positive impact on people's lives locally, nationally, and internationally. With Bournemouth having one of the oldest populations in England, more people are being affected by arthritis and ageing. I'll read that again. More people are being affected by arthritis and ageing than anywhere else. As a community, we need to support each other, and a health and well-being campaign is the best place to start. I wholeheartedly support Professor Middleton and Wainwright in their laudable programme to provide help and advice to the residents of Bournemouth. It is also worth noting that we have an innovative and forward-thinking hospital here in Bournemouth, as it is developing and expanding to facilitate the greater demands of our increasing population. I also wish to use the Myrtle office to promote Bournemouth. Now we are thriving and open for business and tourism after a difficult 2 years of the pandemic. Now that we are in the post-COVID era, I would like to promote inward investment and bring jobs and prosperity to the residents of Bournemouth. We are all thrilled and delighted to see the Cherries back in their rightful place in the Premier League. And I have offered the office of the Mayor to Mr. Mostyn, the Chairman of Bournemouth Football Club, if there is any way that I can be of assistance to help and promote the club in the forthcoming new season. Bournemouth is rapidly becoming a cosmopolitan town which provides exceptional facilities for all age groups and so many opportunities through the educational establishments and Bournemouth University. During my Myrtle year, I would like to work with our schools to encourage them to visit and see the workings and history of the town hall. I would also like to and wish to re-establish and build on our historic twinnings with Netanya and Lucerne. Over the years, we have had many cordial visits to both towns and have made many friends. And finally, can I, on behalf of the Bournemouth trustees, offer our sincere thanks to our outgoing Mayor, Councillor David Kelsey, and his Mayor's escort, Richard Rumble, for the excellent work they have performed over the last 12 months, and Councillor Sue Phillips, who has been an excellent deputy. Both councillors have been stoic in their duties in exceptionally difficult circumstances during the pandemic, and we owe them both our admiration and thanks in maintaining the office of Mayor with dignity and grace. And we thank you, David, and we thank you, Sue. That's the end of my speech. Is anybody close to the timing? We will now take item 4 on the agenda, which is the election of Deputy Mayor. I will now invite Councillor Anne File to propose David Kelsey.
Thank you, Mr. Very New Mayor, and congratulations in your office. Mr. Mayor, Freedom of the Borough, Honorary Aldermen, past mayors, Member of Parliament, distinguished guests, Charter Trustees, ladies and gentlemen. It's with the greatest pleasure and a tinge of sadness that I'm proposing that Councillor David Kelsey, my ward colleague, be Deputy Mayor for the year 2022-23. It's with pleasure because exactly a year ago, in a small ceremony, truncated because of COVID, that I proposed David for Mayor of Bournemouth with the absolute certainty that he would be a fantastic first citizen of our town. The tinge of sadness comes because his wonderful year in office has come to an end. It's like having a wonderful holiday and then the holiday comes to an end, and David's had such a wonderful year that I do feel sad that it's come to an end. But my prediction was spot on. David proved to be one of the best mayors Bournemouth has ever had. Despite several months when, because of lockdown, he was unable to carry out some much anticipated engagements, he's managed to endear himself to people throughout the town. As an army veteran himself, he's proudly participated in many commemorative ceremonies and has honoured many fellow former servicemen, listening to their stories, speaking to them in a language they understand. His efforts in raising thousands of pounds for Poppy Day, despite the very difficult circumstances, are legendary. David's been an example to everyone. He's visited all parts of the town, meeting the people who make a difference and who make this wonderful town of ours tick. He's empathetic and caring and has recognised those values in the people he's met, like those who made such huge efforts for the Ukrainian crisis, the many charity workers, the folk who work tirelessly for equalities and diversities. He's a true man of the people, yet he shines as an example to everyone, young and old, always friendly, always dignified, always compassionate, and always approachable. As Deputy Mayor, he will be a perfect support to Bob, and I do hope that Richard will be going to many functions with him. You've done brilliantly, Richard. It's been a lovely year. I'm sure it's going to be a very busy year, David, in the civic life of Bournemouth, now that COVID restrictions are lifted and residents and visitors are raring to get out back to enjoying life. In the very first week, we will be celebrating, as we've heard, Her Majesty's Jubilee, and throughout the year there are sure to be times when the Mayor will ask David to assist him, and I know he'll be only too delighted to do so. Mr. Mayor, I have the utmost pleasure in proposing that Councillor David Kelsey be the Deputy Mayor for the coming year.
Thank you, Councillor Filer. I now invite Councillor Toby Johnson to second the proposal.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, Freeman of the Borough, Honorary Alderman, past mayors, Member of Parliament, distinguished guests, Charter Trustees, ladies and gentlemen. When writing my speech to second Councillor Kelsey's nomination for Deputy Mayor, I found myself walking a peculiar line. That line was between, on one side, bordering on waxing lyrical about a councillor who we can all agree has been and will continue to be a fabulous spokesperson for our town, and on the other side, knowing that the man himself will be deeply suspicious if I'm too complimentary about him in a short space of time. Eventually, I decided to negate both issues by keeping my speech nice and short. As Mayor, Councillor Kelsey has worked incredibly hard with so many of our residents, businesses, charities and more, performing his civic duties with a smile and a pride befitting the chains and robes he has worn. I have no doubt he will give every bit as much to the position of Deputy Mayor alongside our wonderful new Mayor. They will be a great team. Councillor Kelsey's impact on the mayoralty, duties he undertook in difficult times as we struggled through COVID, through storms and through his beloved Bournemouth's relegation and promotion to and from the Premier League. This cannot be understated. Despite the trying times, he remained visible, approachable and happy, even to open diddles in the early hours of the morning. For the mayoralty to maintain its stature, this is absolutely vital. And finally, it will be a good thing as we come to the end of the first year in Bournemouth's history with an openly gay mayor, as we will now break further new ground and have our first openly gay deputy mayor. It is with delight that I second Councillor Kelsey for deputy mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Trustees, I put the motion that Councillor David Kelsey be appointed Deputy Mayor for the ensuing municipal year. Can those in favour please raise their hands? Thank you. Any against? That motion is... I therefore declare that the election of Councillor David Kelsey as Deputy Mayor for the ensuing municipal year. The Deputy Mayor will now be invested with the badge of office.
I, David Kelsey, having been elected to the office of Deputy Mayor of the Charter Trustees for Bournemouth, declare that I take the office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and ability.
I now invite the Deputy Mayor to say a few words.
Thank you. Firstly, may I say a huge thank you to the Charter Trustees who gave me the opportunity to hold the position of Mayor. It was an honour and a privilege to have done so. I'd also very much like to thank Councillors Anne Filer and Toby Johnson for their words in proposing me and seconding me. Throughout my year, I've been in awe of the voluntary sector and the different charities that we have here in Bournemouth and the work that they do for the residents of our town and the wider area. On visiting so many of them, I have cried with laughter and with some sadness. I've been inspired by the youngsters and in admiration of the work they all do and will no doubt continue to do so. Throughout my year, I've done various different things. I've been swimming in the sea on Christmas Day, and I look forward to the new Mayor doing so. I've paddled down the Stour on a dragon boat. I've pitched the first delivery for the Bournemouth ladies baseball team. And I've taken the salute at the Beaton of the Retreat. I've judged Halloween events, opened several venues, a real mix of events, all of which I have very much enjoyed. I must pass on my thanks to Councillor Sue Phillips for her support during the year, who, after 3 years as a mayoral role, will be very deserving of a rest. My thanks also go to Richard, my escort, who has helped me through the year and has taken part in most of my events. He took on the role with a bit of trepidation, but has fulfilled the role in an amazing way. Being mayor is a very important role for the town, and all mayors put their own mark on it. And I am sure, Mr. Mayor, that you and your mayoress will do exactly the same. The role of mayor could not happen without the team behind it: Hazel, Carolyn, Carl, Jeff, and Gary, who have ensured that I have arrived on time, been correctly dressed, and not lost the chains. Mr. Mayor, it only remains for me to say thank you again to all involved in my year, and to you, yourself, and the mayoress, to wish you all the very best for your year ahead, and I hope that you enjoy it as much as I have. Thank you. Sorry. I would now like to appoint Mr. Richard Rumble as my deputy escort for the ensuing year.
The Deputy Mayor's escort will now be invested with his badge. We will now take item 5 on the agenda, the appointment of one representative and a substitute to the Association of Charter Trustees. Can I please seek nominations? Councillor Filer.
Yes, I'd like to nominate Councillor David Kelsey to be the member and Councillor Williams to be his substitute.
Are there any other nominations? I now put the motion that Councillors David Kelsey and Lawrence Williams be appointed representative and substitute to the Association of Charter Trustees. Those in favour, please raise your hands. That is unanimous. Thank you very much. We will now take item 6 on the agenda, to appoint budget signatories. Can I please seek nominations?
May I nominate the people that are currently in the role to continue the role, please? And that is Councillor Williams and I think it is Councillor Beasley.
And Councillor Davis.
Sorry.
Councillor Davis.
And Councillor Davies.
Can I have a seconder? Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I so second.
Thank you. Any other nominations? I now put the motion that Councillors Lawrence Williams and Malcolm Davis and John Beasley be appointed budget signatories. Those in favour, please raise your hands. That is unanimous. Thank you. I now declare that Councillors Lawrence Williams and Malcolm Davis be appointed budget signatories. Can I also seek the Charter Trustees' confirmation that Councillor John Beasley continues to undertake the bank statement verification. Agreed? Thank you. We will now take item 7 on the agenda to agree the calendar of meetings. The Charter Trustees are asked to consider the following arrangements for meetings in accordance with the standing orders. June the 23rd at 6 p.m, 24th of October at 6 p.m, the 23rd of January at 6 p.m, and the 26th of January at 11:15 a.m. Those in favour, please raise your hands. That motion is carried. Thank you very much. I declare that the Charter Trustees haven't agreed the calendar of meetings in accordance with the standing orders. Charter Trustees, that concludes the business of the meeting, and thank you to our guests for coming to witness this special occasion. The live stream should now finish.